slow-mo at all. But obviously, a lot of goodbyes to Klay Thompson as he signed his 3-year, $50 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks. And we heard from Steph Curry, or we saw from Steph Curry, post a bunch of photos of him and Klay and Draymond, and he had a heartfelt message to Klay Thompson. And then Draymond Green, with the Draymond Green show, started talking about Klay Thompson. Why'd you scoff?
I just
shocked you talking to me.
There are some times where less is more, and I understand that we're in a society where everyone wants everyone's opinions all at once. I don't know. I just think that Dre should just let the dust settle, and I think right now, given where the Warriors are at, I just know that like they're in the middle of trying to make a lot of moves, and a lot of stuff is still up in the air. And I just think that when you're a part of a team, there is a semblance of like, you can't be talking about people coming and going until like the whole period is over. I think I'm not saying it's out of bounds. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's like you talk about players on your team who may or may not be there. And
so you're saying the feelings of guys like, if Wiggins or Kuminga or Pods.
I just know how I would feel, I guess. Let me just put it that way. I know how I would feel, and I'd probably be like, hey, man, like, I'm getting dangled everywhere. It's one thing if, like, a reporter is putting it out there or the internet is putting it out there. I don't need my teammate to be talking about my stuff. Like, I don't know. To me, it just feels in poor taste. I don't say it's wrong. I'm not saying that's, like, some unethical thing. Again, just poor taste as a teammate.
Well, here's what he said about that. As LeBron James just signed or plans to sign a 2-year $104 million max deal to return to the LA Lakers with the player option and a no-trade clause. Player option, no-trade clause for LeBron James. To go back to the LA Lakers, here is Draymond Green about wanting Paul George.
I mean, there were other free agency moves, and Paul George is the biggest of the summer, and he's planning to sign a 4-year deal with the 76ers. Also a little salty about that because, as you all know, Paul George was going to come to the Warriors, and we wanted Paul George to come to the Warriors. We always talk about these organizations, what they do for their players and whatnot. For us to get Paul George, it would have taken a sign and trade, and the Clippers didn't really want to play ball, didn't really want to help him get to where he wanted to go, and so in turn, they get nothing back. And, whereas you could have gotten something back for Paul George walking, they get absolutely nothing back. So these organizations don't always be willing to play ball. And I don't think the Clippers were really willing to play ball for Paul George to get to the Warriors. I kind of understand it. I suppose you don't want him in the same division as you because you may know how that looks if he comes with us. So that didn't quite pan out for us, which would have been nice.
Huh.
I mean,
interesting.
So here, I think it's difficult for a GM to talk about trades that don't happen because you have to welcome back and see people who you might have been reportedly gone, right? And I understand there's this business, but clearly if I've learned anything in the last year and a half with the Warriors is that emotions are a big part of this. A big part of this, and feelings and chemistry and how people are all on the same page.
Has that surprised you?
What's that?
Has that surprised you?
How much?
Yeah.
I think with a younger team, I wouldn't have been as surprised. With an older team, I am surprised because I would expect when you've been around for as long as a lot of these guys have been, Dre and Klay and whatnot, you're 13 years in the league. You've been through multiple negotiations. You've seen big trades. You've seen big acquisitions. You've seen some of your friends go for whatever reason to other teams. You just have relationships. I mean, we've been in this industry a long time. How many people have we seen come and go, from around here? And so, on some level, I get the personal aspect, but on the other level, everybody tells me how much of a business this is, and yet I keep coming back to there's a lot of emotions baked into this.
Well, I'll say this about the Paul George situation, and Draymond saying, well, the Clippers didn't play ball, they let Paul George walk for nothing or whatnot. There's going to be more details coming out about this negotiation. I'll brace everybody for that. There's going to be more details to come out because there's always two sides to a story. And sure, the Clippers didn't want to play ball with the Golden State Warriors. They also didn't want to they wanted to get under the tax and try to get under that tax their second apron. If anybody, Ballmer's like Lacob, and Ballmer has a lot more money than Lacob. Now, they both have a lot of money, but Ballmer is the richest owner in the NBA. They didn't want to give Paul George that 4th year and, by the way, help out the Golden State Warriors, a team that's right up north And so I think that those two things, as well as like, look, that relationship with Paul George and the Clippers soured. Now Draymond Green said that, hey, man, he wanted to come here. We were going to get him. The aspect of guys coming into the locker room, if the Warriors stay as is, if they come back and they have Kuminga and Pods and TJD and Looney and Kuminga, it's going to be very interesting to see the locker room dynamic next season for the Golden State Warriors. Andrew Wiggins as well, because he's been rumored in all these deals. How's he feeling here? He's not playing for Team Canada. Apparently it was mutual. It's just, I'm kind of with you here. It's probably not something as a current player you should probably speak on. Now, Draymond's going to do whatever he wants to do. It's his podcast. It's his show. Gives us insight on what's happening behind the scenes. However, as a teammate, I'm kind of like you. I was like, damn, you guys were just trying to trade me. You guys were just trying to replace me.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, you were doing a radio show, and they're like, wow, you're bringing this guy in? Like, you trying to replace me? Where's my job status at?
How can you, like, yeah, what's up, dog? You know,
Right.
like, for training camp, like, hey, man, you had to put out a pod to get some clicks in the middle of everything kind of going down. Like, can you just let a couple weeks go by? I guess is where I'm going at with this.
And now there's going to have to be a conversation. It's like, hey, but, I already know what the players will say if they do come back. Hey, you know what? Business is business. Business is business.
Well, they say
business
that,
is business.
but then the actions don't back up the
Right.
words, right? And so, I don't know. It's one thing to talk about Klay Thompson and his departure, because people do want to hear about that. When you're with somebody for 12 or 13 years like they were, like, I totally get about it. I just think if I was him, I'd be like, hey, I don't know what was going on with the Paul George thing. We'll report later on down the line. Like, you can address it without addressing it the way that he does. And I just think that he's putting the GM in a tough spot, because now the GM's got to, like, well, Dre said this, and, this is coming out. Like, there's enough misinformation in general that's being reported all over the board. I wouldn't want one of my players, going out there and speaking on our behalf indirectly.
Now, I will say this, though. There's a lot of conflicting details. And what Draymond said, nobody's surprised by it. We know they went after Draymond Green. But Kawakami came out with an article Saturday, a few hours after Paul George opted out of his deal with the LA Clippers to become an unrestricted free agent and take the Warriors out of the sweepstakes of attaining Paul George. There's a lot of details in there about who was in the combination of the trades. Kuminga's name was in there. Wiggins' name was in there. Then you get Ramona Shelburne from ESPN, who yesterday says, Kuminga was never part of any trade. So somebody's lying around here. I'm not saying here, person in the Bay Area or what but something's amiss.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you can't just say, wait, the Clippers are going to accept the trade? The Clippers are going to accept the trade without Jonathan Kuminga? Huh? That doesn't make sense. And the murmurs I'm hearing from Southern California kind of aligns with what I think about, wait, something's not lining up right.
Are you intimating that Kuminga was never a part of the deal?
I'm intimating that something's not right here.
Gotcha.
I think Kuminga was part of the deal. If I'm the Clippers, I just don't think that the Clippers, in the way they functioned as an organization, because look, they haven't won any championships, but they functioned like a big league club now. Ever since Donald Sterling got out of here, we never had to see him again. You got Ballmer in there. This is a legit NBA organization. They had Jerry West on the sideline with them. They won to win just like the Golden State Warriors. They've done things the right way. The Clippers are now, I can't, some people still laugh at them, but they're a legit franchise now. They are. You mean to tell me that they were going to do a deal with send Paul George away to the Golden State Warriors and not get back Kuminga? That doesn't, somebody's lying here. Now, maybe Ramona Shelburne got tipped off by somebody by the Dove saying, hey, we didn't offer Kuminga to maybe make Kuminga feel better about himself, saying, hey, I'm not in the trade rumor no more. I don't know, but something's not lining up here about the whole Kuminga's not part of a deal. He is part of a deal. I don't believe anything. I think he is part of a deal, because if you're a team out there and you see what Kuminga did last season, they're saying, I get my hands on the 21-year-old Jonathan Kuminga. This is a hell of a project to have. This guy can ball. So I don't believe any of these teams that are dealing with the Golden State Warriors are saying, yeah, you can keep Kuminga. We want Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, I don't buy that.
Well, I think you're on to something. There's clearly somebody's not dealing with a full deck here, and there's some misdirection, right? Wherever the sourcing is coming from, there's clear. And look, what you hear is what you hear, right? Like I'm sure you, Bonte, I'm sure you know a lot of things that you've never taken to air and you don't know how to, cross-reference it, get that second, third, fourth source.
I just don't do it. I just don't say anything.
Okay. But do you get where I'm going? Sometimes your sources are incorrect or whatever. So I don't know. The thing that I just keep coming back to is like everybody just pretends to be these businessmen. Well, I'm a businessman. It's like if you're in the middle of a negotiation as an organization, the last thing you want as the two CEOs are negotiating some sort of a transaction is somebody 5 levels down or 3 levels down speaking out of turn out loud publicly in the middle of a negotiation. And that's why, again, just my particular feeling is that I think it's in poor taste for Draymond to be speaking about all of these players on the roster who may or may not be here and trades that may or may not have been consummated at this current time. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And no one is saying it's a punishable offense or, he's so out of line. It's in poor taste. That's all.
All right, we'll get. Oh yeah, we got to break.